Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. And we always invite all opposing views. A family court judge must not only be law-abiding, he must be intuitive, resourceful, and able to assist family to where solutions and decisions are useful to the family in crisis. At FIT, we take family issues very seriously. We want to support those candidates who are responsible and serious in their endeavor. Here are two family court judge candidates we feel will make sound, constructive decisions on the bench. And they are George Harkin and Matthew Hughes. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming. So I would like you to just tell the audience a little bit about who you are, and you can go in any order,
Sure.
whoever. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. My name
qualifications are.
Sure. My name is Matt Hughes. I'm a lifelong resident of Suffolk County. I grew up in Miller Place. I currently reside in Huntington, New York. I'm married. I have two children, a daughter age 10 and a son age 6. In terms of my qualifications for family court judge, I'm currently a principal law clerk to the Honorable Judge Joseph C. Pastoressa. Principal law clerk is a quasi-judicial position whereby we research and write opinions for the judge. Supreme Court is the highest trial court in New York. We basically are a lawyer to the judge and myself. In that position, we conference cases with litigants and lawyers to try to resolve disputes in connection with cases that are before us. Currently, Judge Pastoressa sits in a civil term, which is basically car accidents, breach of contract types of actions, slip and falls, personal injury types of actions, medical malpractice. Civil things. Prior to that, we did, Judge Pastoressa did sit in a matrimonial term for a number of years, where obviously we handled, Judge Pastoressa handled divorces. Prior to, I've been a principal law clerk for approximately 10 years to Judge Pastoressa. Prior to that, I worked for one of the largest law firms on Long Island, the law firm of Rifkin Radler. I worked as an associate. It was there I handled land use and zoning matters, municipal litigation, and prior to that I worked for the town attorney's office in the town of Huntington as an assistant town attorney.
You're not there now though, right?
I am not, no, and I was a special assistant district attorney there as well, prosecuting town code violations, and I also defended the town in terms of civil lawsuits. And finally, I started my career in the family court as a staff attorney to the Suffolk County Legal Aid Society as a trial attorney, where we tried all types of cases, custody and visitation, orders of protection.
Isn't that tough? You know, that part of it?
It's tough, but it was a wonderful training ground, obviously, as a trial attorney, to get in the courtroom, to go before judges, and really represent litigants right out of law school. It was a wonderful opportunity, and I really loved the experience. It was wonderful to try to make a difference in people's lives every day, people representing them. So I'm grateful for that and thankful. And I feel like I've coming full circle now, obviously running for family court and a family court judge, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Great.
So thank you.
And you, George?
Thanks. I'm George Harkin. I'm also running for family court judge. There are 2 openings, and Matt and I are both running. I've been living out in Suffolk County since I was 9 years old. My parents moved from Uniondale to Suffolk County. I grew up in Ronkonkoma. My wife and I met. We were both working in the district attorney's office together. We got married in 1990. We just passed 25 years married. We have 2 children, boys. One is 22. He just graduated from Ithaca College. And our other son, Ryan, is down in Gettysburg College, and he's studying down there. He's in his 2nd year. We live out in the town of Riverhead. We live specifically in Calverton out there. And we've been in the same house for 25 years. I graduated from law school and began my career back in 1988. When I graduated from law school, I joined the district attorney's office out here in Suffolk County. Began with prosecuting minor offenses, had my first trial the 2nd week on the job. It's a great way to learn, be thrown right in.
Into the fire.
Absolutely. And then worked my way up. I when I left the DA's office, I left from Major Crime Bureau, where I was prosecuting major cases, major street felonies. And when I left there, I went out into private practice, working first for someone else and then built my own practice. In 1995, I was asked by the Attorney General's office to come work for them, defend the state of New York in the Court of Claims. That's where people sue the state of New York for money. Basically anything that Matt was talking about in regard to things that happen in Supreme Court, slip and falls, car accidents, particularly medical malpractice cases with Stony Brook, or there's a lot of eminent domain cases where the street is being widened. That's what people sue
So
for.
litigants have a complaint and sue the state?
It's the state, yeah.
Okay.
The accident might happen with a state vehicle, or it might happen on state property. So I defended the state. While I was there, the judge that was hearing these cases was his law secretary was leaving, so he asked me to come work for him. So I became a law clerk back in 1997 and spent the next about 16 years of my career in the Court of Claims. From there, I then left, went back to the...
interesting also.
Oh, it was very interesting, yeah. It was a great time.
The eminent domain issues are sometimes issues, right? Because
The eminent domain can be...
personal attachment to the piece of whatever it is that may
the
be
property
losing.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
Most of it ended up being commercial property, so
Not
I
as
don't know
bad.
that there's not as much personal attachment to that.
Right, right.
From there, I went back to the Attorney General's office, actually, and spent a short time there. And now I work for Judge David T. Riley in the Supreme Court, and we are in a matrimonial part. In that, we do handle a lot of family issues, which have prepared me for family court. When I was in private practice, a good percentage of my practice was also in family court. And so I represented fathers, I represented mothers, families in turmoil. I mean, they're just issues that were really affecting them, whether they were support or custody issues, or people having their parental rights, being terminated.
Yeah, so my first question would have been, you pretty much answered, is why you were getting involved in a serious position like a family court, and you've got some experience already going in.
Right. Yeah, I do have the experience, I do have the background there, and it's a great way to build on it. And one of the things that I said at a civic organization recently is, speak to anybody, whether it's you or whether it's the voters that are out there. Go out and call anybody that's currently practicing in family court. Go out and call somebody that's doing matrimonial law. Ask them about the candidates. Because particularly with judges, that's usually the only way that you can find out about people. And I think, I know with myself, I trusted my reputation there. I'm not allowed to say good things about Matt through the judicial ethics, but I'm sure that he would trust in his own reputation as well.
Isn't that a silly rule? How do you feel about your design to go into family court, to be a family court judge?
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said prior, that I started my career there. It's an opportunity to make a difference in the children of Suffolk County, and a difference in the families of Suffolk County. My experience, I've had public service, and I've enjoyed it, and the opportunity to become a judge and preside over family court matters, it would be an honor. Obviously, to become a judge is one of the highest accolades that you can achieve in our profession, and it's something that I would take very seriously.
Yeah.
Should the residents of Suffolk County give me the opportunity.
I'm not being pompous when I tell you this, but I really believe that the family court judge is far more important than a lot of other elected officials. And I know in particular reference to who someone's going to vote for, that doesn't come up in the higher pecking order of where people are, but it actually is, in my opinion, more important than many other roles. I mean, you involve yourself in so many people's lives.
Yeah, and like I said, families in turmoil. I mean, if you get to family court, your family's in crisis.
Right.
I mean, it's at a time when either your child has been arrested for committing a crime and they're just not old enough to be in adult court, or there's problems that arise between the mother and father where they they can't figure out custody, they can't figure out support.
And they're fighting too much or whatever.
Fighting too much, or maybe they're neglecting their child, and they need to, the child may need a different situation.
Seems like a lot of responsibility, though, when you think about it.
It certainly is, and it's a very serious responsibility, and one that needs to be handled, you know, with sensitivity.
Yeah, and it's important that each case that you assess, you know, very carefully, each case that comes before the court, that you assess, and you really know, try to figure out what's going on. You really have to be fact sensitive as to what's going on with the families at that particular time. You really do, more so than any other cases. You know, not to say or make light of a criminal matter or a civil matter. You know, you try to take each one carefully and selectively and assess each one. But with family court, when you're dealing, like George said, with families in crisis, you have to get you know, a grip of what's going on exactly with the family and the situation.
There are times when, as I'm a divorce mediator, when I'm in my position, that I sometimes look for some guidance, because you can't always determine where to go when you're hearing what a couple's issues are, and especially when they're fighting. You know, you have to kind of wait them out. You don't have necessarily the same opportunity to wait them out, so do you call in for forensics if you need it, right? I mean, if it has to be, and that could be accounting forensics or psychological forensics, am I right?
Correct, yeah. If somebody's business needs to be assessed because you're not sure how much money they're making, or if you really need to get a grip on what's actually going on at home between mom and dad or with the child, you can call in for psychological forensics.
So you call in for that, though? The judge does? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely, make that recommendation.
There's a lot of pain in the divorce, and I'm just going to stay with this a little bit longer. The need for finding a solution to people that are fighting is a huge challenge, and I think it's a big responsibility, because you have so much weight bearing on the result of the decision. So for the reason why I brought up the forensic is, how could you know everything on the bench? You know, you need help sometimes.
Absolutely. As a judge, you can always look to an expert, like
Right,
in this
an
instance,
expert, right.
a psychologist or psychiatrist, to weigh in on what the emotional and physical and aspects of the parents, you know, and the children as well, and what's exactly going on. It's just another tool
Right.
for the court to use to assess
Right.
exactly
And it's
what's
good that
going
you
on.
have that. I mean,
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely, yeah.
you can't know everything. You know, it's too hard.
Absolutely.
Right, well, when you're sitting there in court, you know, from what the judge hears on the bench can be a whole lot different than what a forensic psychologist is going to observe while they're visiting with somebody in their home or visiting with somebody in the psychologist's office.
And talking and taking a family history, and obviously
Right.
we're not experts on
And
psychology.
do you have to evaluate the forensics report? Which is another situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you read through the forensic support or report. If, you know, it gets to that level that the parents can't settle the case on their own, and it does go to trial, then the judge does have to go through the report.
What determinative factors do you use in, say, in a custody decision? Is there something you can point to that would make it easier to make that decision, or something that you know from your own experience? Or how would you, customarily make?
Well,
if you're facing that situation where you have to make that custody decision.
As a judge, you have to rely on the law, and the law sets out certain factors in regard to custody. I mean, you have to look at
The primary consideration is obviously the best interest of the child
Right.
in custody, and then there are factors to assess what is in the best interest of the child. Home environment might
That's
be one.
a big determinative issue. What is in the best interest? That can't be easy.
It's a tough decision. It's why, like you said, it's so important to assess candidates, look at their background, to make a to really, when you cast that vote, to determine that these people can make that type of decision.
Right. You don't want somebody just, flipping a coin basically to decide where the child is going to go. You, as Matt said, you want somebody who's going to be able to assess what's going on between mom and dad.
Right, right. Some of the statutes I've looked at are difficult for me as a mediator to automatically apply. So, like for instance, let's use the Child Support Standards Act, for instance. There's a certain percentage for 2 kids, it's 25% of the, New York State has it as gross income. Most of the other states do not, but that's what you're dealing with.
Gross income minus FICA.
Minus FICA.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I found difficult is that sometimes the percentage, when you're taking it off of the gross income level, is difficult for that median income person to go on comfortably. So I find the law unreasonable. That's just me talking about doing this for years. But I can go around that. You're not stuck with applying the standard, are you? I mean, it is a law, but you're not stuck there. You can move outside that box, right?
The parties can decide to deviate from the Child Support
With a letter.
Standards Act.
And make it into an agreement amongst themselves to
Right,
deviate.
so you
And
can
they
do
can
that.
cite certain factors as to why they're going to go and deviate from
Right.
the act.
Yeah, so I do that too. I'm just wondering when
Right.
it has to be done that way, when the circumstances provide a better opportunity for, say, a land piece or a house or a second house or something, a negotiable item that could be moved over and agreed upon. I mean, that kind of thing could be done. You can do that too, right?
Yeah.
Well, when people settle, it's a whole lot different than when the judge decides. The judge's hands
Right.
are tied a little bit more. That's why it's so
Right.
important for people to really take into consideration, to put aside the emotions of some of these things and see what's best for their family when they're going to settle a case.
So when you're stuck, you have to go by the
Stuck,
law,
you're
and that's
stuck,
it.
and, I know there's many attorneys that try to explain that to people, and sometimes emotions just get the better of people.
Would you recommend things like counseling that are outside the court's domain? I mean, if
Sure,
you come into that situation, would you consider that?
I think the court system always will, encourage counseling, especially for children in this type of situation with, like you said, families in crisis. If there's a substance abuse problem in the household, that the court would obviously try to recommend that they get counseling for substance abuse and encourage that. So, absolutely.
So you're both credentialed very well in terms of being prepared to be a judge, as I see it. I'm your first person that you have to face here. So it looks like you'll do fine with it. But there's so many issues besides divorce. I mean, there's PINs and things like that, PINs petitions and drug addictions and things like that. You have to deal with that's when you need outside help. I guess you need a report, right? If somebody's
Sure.
Yeah.
They would go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just to
sure.
be clear, family court does not handle the actual divorce case. Family court handles custody. They handle support issues.
Not
they
the
handle
custody
some other-
decisions.
but not the actual judgment of divorce.
Right.
That's
This is the Supreme Court, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm a media, I want to ask, is it possible you ever recommend mediation? Would you consider recommending mediation?
I know the courts, where we are now, which does handle divorce, we do have mediation within the court. There are referees that are there, and those referees then might send those people to outside mediators
When it's possible.
when it's possible.
Yeah.
And
When it calls for it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of cases they do call for it, and the court and the judge like to encourage the people to mediate. Some cases, if they're so far apart and they're just, there's so many differences that it may not be a situation where it might be fruitful to go to mediation. But obviously, where you can get two people together to decide and have somebody
Well, it's
like
another
yourself.
tool. I mean,
It's
you
another
can
tool.
use
Absolutely.
another tool in your
Absolutely.
chest, right?
And,
Yeah,
and for the two people to get together and decide, with a mediator there, as you know, Chris, that can come to their own terms, that's always encouraged, and it's always
Right.
Fruitful for them to do it on their own versus the court or the judge to
it's
decide.
better for the family unit itself to
Right.
try to figure out how they're going to live apart, because they know their situation a whole lot better than they're ever going to be able to convey to a judge during a trial.
Any last minute comments about your own your candidacy coming up? And I wish you a lot of luck. Is there anything that you'd like
Well,
to?
I'd just like to thank you, Chris, for giving us
Okay.
this opportunity, and
You're welcome.
like to say that one of the reasons why I'm running for family court is obviously to make a difference in the lives of the families of Suffolk County and in the children, and I welcome the opportunity to do so.
And George, I suppose.
Chris, yeah, I really appreciate this opportunity to be here and to talk to your viewers and to talk to you. I do feel that I am qualified to sit on the family court bench and that I can make a great difference in the lives of these families that really need it. And so I just, again, would challenge anyone to go out and talk to any attorney that appears in a matrimonial part, family court.
Yeah.
Ask about the candidates.
My viewers are going to look at these and they're going to say two very wholesome guys that look like they have a great future in front of them. So I want to wish you both very
Thank you.
very
Chris,
lot of
thank you
luck.
very
Thank
much.
you, George. Thank you
Appreciate
very
your
much,
time.
Matt.
Thank you.
You've been watching FIT TV, the program that brings you behind the scenes of our divorce culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. My name is Chris DiMaggio. We invite all opposing views, by the way, and thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Every week we return all our cans and bottles. Yeah, we help to reduce the world's waste.
But aluminum? It's like gold. Oh, yeah.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more environmentally friendly tips, go to getgreen.com.
Oh, there's a bottle.
Where?
Right over there. To your left. To your left. There you go. You got it.